Welcome to our channel. What Mets' recent signings mean for the pursuit of bringing back Pete Alonso. As the Mets season reached the finish line in the National League Championship Series, the line of questioning for the Mets front office immediately shifted to a polar bear-sized hole in the heart of their lineup. From the conclusion of the 2024 campaign to the end of the calendar year through Major League Baseball's winter meetings, Mets president of baseball operations David Stearns voiced his affinity for homegrown star Pete Alonso. The Mets would love to bring Pete back, Stearns said in the days following the season. No one could deny Alonso's value to the franchise over his 6-year tenure with the Major League club after being drafted by the franchise in 2016. He had wrapped a whopping 226 home runs, third most in franchise history, and taken home the Rookie of the Year award and a pair of home run derby crowns. In the process, he vaulted into a love affair with the Mets fans. In between the lines of Stearns and owner Steve Cohen's words of praise toward Alonso, as the four-time All-Star first baseman entered free agency, remained an open-ended fate. Sure, he was a great Met, but to what end would the Mets go to bring him back? Now, nearly 3 months since the final out of the Mets season was made, it appears that the club and Alonso are no closer to a Flushing reunion. In fact, that fate has become a bit more hazy in the last week. On Friday, the Mets officially brought back Jesse Winker on a 1-year, $7.5 million deal to help occupy the designated hitter spot in the lineup. On the same day, the Mets reportedly came to terms on a 2-year, $22 million contract to secure left-handed relief pitcher A.J. Minter, a deal with an opt-out for 2026 that addressed a major need in the bullpen. Those were supplemental moves to the biggest splash of the offseason when the Mets front office sent a tremor through the baseball landscape with a record 15-year, $765 million deal to add 26-year-old superstar Juan Soto. The Mets have also fortified the starting rotation by bringing back Sean Manaea and bringing in Clay Holmes on 3-year deals and grabbing Frankie Montas on a 2-year contract. An expanding cost. Despite a void on the right side of the diamond, the Mets' current payroll sits at $297 million according to Fangraphs. That is already into the second surcharge threshold above the MLB's competitive balance tax threshold, which sits at $241 heading into 2025. The Mets would owe 60% on every dollar spent above $301 million, forcing an Alonso deal to come with massive financial ramifications. Last season, the Mets finished with a $336 million payroll, and while Cohen shelled out a record $346 million for a star-packed team in 2023, that ended poorly with Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, and David Robertson, among others, all being shipped out at the trade deadline. The Mets finished with 75 wins, 12 games under .500. That was a big lesson for Mets ownership on the limitations on what spending can help accomplish, and the Mets took on a different approach last season aside from Soto. The Mets have avoided the top of the free agent market and a potential big financial hit throughout the rest of the offseason. A difference of opinion. In the 3 months since the Mets season ended, the front office has had to face a difficult reality. While Alonso is a beloved homegrown Met and one of the best power hitters in the game, there appears to be a gap between how Alonso and the Mets feel he's valued. On the heels of a 40-home run, 131 RBI campaign in 2022, featuring a career-high .271 batting average, Alonso reportedly turned down a 7-year, $158 million extension offer. While he finished with 46 home runs and 118 RBI in 2023, Alonso batted a career-low .212. In his contract year, he followed that up with a .240/.329/.459/ line, a career-worst .788 OPS, with 34 home runs and 88 RBI. The New York Post's Joel Sherman and Dan Martin reported late last week that Alonso rejected a deal in the 3-year contract in the $68 million to $70 million range. The two parties appear at a clear impasse, making a deal to return seem less and less likely. Mets' potential pivot. The Mets began to make a pivot on Friday when they moved to the top of the reliever market. With the power-hitting Alonso in the heart of their lineup, the Mets are a clearly better ball club. But after 2 seasons of regression and reaching 30 years old entering the 2025 season, there is an obvious risk to inking Alonso to a long-term deal. Without Alonso, the Mets would likely lean more heavily on their youth to fill out the lineup. It could mean shifting 24-year-old upstart Mark Vientos across the diamond from first to third base and then filling in the hot corner with the victor of a spring training competition between Brett Baty, Luis Angel Acuna, and Ronnie Mauricio.